Alright, we're going to go over a few different techniques that you can use to make shadows in Adobe Illustrator. So we're going to start with some pretty simple ones, and then we'll get to some more complex, cooler ones. So the first one we're going to go over is the drop shadow. So here you can see that we have a big cloud right in the center of our artboard. But actually it's three different clouds. So adding a drop shadow here will just help us add some depth so you can really see all the different cloud layers. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on one, we're going to go to Effect, Stylize, Drop Shadow. And you can get pretty creative with it. There's a lot of different modes. You can kind of play with the opacities, the X and Y offsets, and all that stuff. The blur is how far the shadow extends from your object. You can also play with the colors, make it kind of glow if you want. But anyway, we're just going to leave everything like this for now. We're going to click OK. We're going to wait for it to load. For some reason, Illustrator takes a little minute to load drop shadows. So now you can see that we have this little shadow on this cloud. So that's pretty cool. So now what we can do is we can select another one, the second one, Effect. And this time we can just do Apply Drop Shadow, and it's going to apply the same effect to this cloud that it did to the first cloud. Cool. And now we will take the third cloud, Effect, Apply Drop Shadow, wait for it to load. Perfect. And so now you can see we have these three distinct cloud layers. So like I said earlier, adding a drop shadow can just kind of add some depth so that now it looks like there's three different layers rather than just one blob right in the middle. And you can play with the settings to make the shadow a little less prominent if you want, or more prominent, just whatever you want. The next technique we're going to go over is something that's used in kind of flat designs. So we're going to attempt to make a cup. We're going to make this shape look rounded like a mug. So what we're going to do is we're going to select this. We're going to do Control C. Going to go to Control F to paste in front. We're going to click on it and hold Shift while we drag it just to the right a little bit. And then we will click the shape on the bottom. Come over here to our colors. And then I like to use HSB. So if you don't have HSB selected, just select that, then HSB right there. You can just kind of play with these sliders. We'll just brighten it up a bit. Cool, that looks good. And then, so now it just adds a little bit of depth, makes it look a little bit more rounded. Then we can just take the handle, put it right on the side. And now we have our full functioning cup. So that's pretty cool. We can use that exact same technique to kind of make objects look a little more 3D. So we're going to try that. We're going to use that same effect on this tree. We're going to do it a little backwards. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the tree, Control C, Control F to paste in front. Click on it, hold Shift to drag it slightly to the right. Perfect. We're going to select the bottom shape up here to the colors, but this time we're going to darken it a bit. Just go like that. Yeah, that's fine. And we'll do the same to the bottom right here. The trunk, darken that up a bit, maybe a little more. Perfect. And then what we can do is we can select all of it. So just select this, the selection tool, hotkey V, and then do Shift M to get your shape builder tool, this tool right here. And then hover your mouse over these parts that are overlapping and hold Option or Alt, and then click on them to delete them. Perfect. And then now your tree looks a little bit more three-dimensional. Looks like it kind of pops a little bit. This next technique is something that's also used quite a bit in flat designs. So we're going to take the rectangle tool right here, and we are going to make a rectangle over this half of the tree right there, and then just change it to black. And then we're going to select everything, and then do Shift M to get your shape builder tool. Hover your mouse over this area, hold Option or Alt and click, and then now we have this black shape that mirrors this bit of the tree. So select that shape, and we're going to go over here to the transparency panel. Oops, that's the gradient. Transparency panel, and we're just going to change the opacity. So we'll try we'll do like 30%. So let's change that to 30, and then you can see now that you just have this nice little shadow on this half of the tree. So that's pretty cool. Next, we're going to make this tree cast a shadow onto the artboard over here, just at an angle right here. We're going to grab the rectangle tool, then from the top of the tree to the bottom, we will drag out a rectangle like that, and then we're just going to color it black real quick. I'm going to select no fill right there. Cool. And just go ahead and deselect it, and then hotkey A for your direct selection tool. We're going to drag a little box over these corners on the right side. We're trying to select this anchor point and this anchor point. And then put your cursor anywhere on this path and you can drag it out and you can adjust the shape. If you hold shift and go kind of down, you can do it at a 45-degree angle. So that's good right there. So now what we can do is change the opacity. So we're going to come over here to the transparency panel, and right now opacity is 100%. We're going to change it to 40%. Awesome. So that looks pretty good, you know. It looks like it's supposed to be a shadow, but we're going to make it even better by adding a gradient. So what we can do is we can come over here to the gradient panel, click on the object, and then we're just going to select linear gradient right here. So right now it's a black to white gradient, but we want black to black. So I put this little black circle right here to help us out with this. So I'm just going to click on the eyedropper right here. Oh, I'm going to click on this first to make sure this little thing is selected, this little circle right here. I'm going to click on the eyedropper, and then just right here to make it black to black. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. Now what we're going to do is we're going to change the opacity. So we want this one to stay at 100%. We want this one over here, we'll take this to 0. Click enter. Now it looks better already. You can tell that it shades, or that it fades out. It's pretty cool. If you want to change it or adjust it or anything, you can come over here to the gradient tool, hotkey G. You can just kind of play around with it. Oh, I don't have my shape selected. Play with the gradient tool, you know, and you can see the computer's lagging a little bit, but you can see that you can kind of adjust it, see what you want it to go, see where you want the shadow to go, how quickly you want it to fade out. You can also do the same thing with these things over here. You can kind of play with them, adjust them a little bit, see what you like best. But anyway, yeah, so now we have a pretty cool looking shadow. The tree is just casting a shadow right here on the background. This last technique we're going to use is my favorite because it looks the most realistic. So we have this camel. We're going to do Control C, Control F to paste in front, and then we will do Transform, go to Reflect. We want it horizontal, click OK. And now we have two camels. One's upside up, one's upside down. We're just going to take this, hold shift and drag it down. We just want the feet to meet up. We can see right here that it doesn't exactly match up, which is okay. We can just change that real quick. We'll select this bottom camel. We'll zoom in to see the feet a little better. And we're going to come over here. We're going to click on the puppet warp tool right there. And then these little circles, we can just click on them and just drag them down to make them meet up. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. We'll do the same thing. Here. And right here. Perfect. Just deselect that, scroll out a little bit, or zoom out, I mean. Awesome. So I have the camel, and then this bottom one, as you probably guessed, is going to be the shadow. So we'll click on this. We're going to make it black. Up here, black, perfect. Then we are going to come over here, the puppet warp tool, and we're going to long press on it. We're going to come down here to the free transform tool. It's also hotkey E. And then we can just kind of, we can morph it however we want. You know, it'll depend on your artwork, how long or short you want the shadow or whatever. So we'll just drag it right there. I think that looks fine. Yeah, so that looks pretty good. So then we're going to come over here, just like we did before with the transparency. And again, we'll just do 40%. I usually like to use 40% for my shadows. And we're going to come over here to the gradient and click on it, and then click linear gradient. And then as you can see right here, it's dark up here and it's light up here, but we want the opposite. So we are going to click on this thing, reverse gradient. Awesome. and immediately it looks a million times better. Just like before, if you want to play around with it, you can click on the gradient tool right here and just kind of play around with it, how far you want the shadow to go before it completely disappears, and all that stuff, how dark you want it to be. You can play around with the slider thing over here, and there's just a ton of stuff you can do. Illustrator is a great program. And that is the end of this tutorial. So those are a few techniques that you can use to add shadows to your artwork in Adobe Illustrator.